Good afternoon, it's Friday, January 8th. I'm Anthony Lugg with the Midday News. A special welcome if you're watching on onespotmedia.com. Professor of Political Science at Barry University, Dr. Sean Foreman, thinks it's unlikely U.S. President Donald Trump will be removed from office before his term ends on January 20. House Speaker Nancy Pelosi, Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer, Republican Congressman Adam Kinzinger, and others have come out calling for his removal. They have suggested using the 25th Amendment of the U.S. Constitution to remove Mr. Trump on the basis that he's incapable of carrying out the duties of office. However, speaking yesterday on Radio Jamaica's Beyond the Headlines, Dr. Foreman said there's no precedent for such a removal and it would be a long process.
It would be a timely process, and in the end, if they vote to say that Donald Trump is unable to carry out the duties of his office, he can protest that. They have to prove it. And so we would end up in a court or in a larger session of Congress, which again would take time to schedule and defend and to go through the proceedings. And by then, Donald Trump's term will be over.
Dr. Foreman says going the impeachment route would also be time-consuming. In addition, he says there's little incentive for Republicans to try to remove Mr. Trump now.
If the cabinet members weren't willing to turn on Donald Trump in the past, when this rumor of the 25th Amendment was floated, there's little incentive to do it now with just a few days left. And I think the final piece of evidence to show us this won't happen is that Transportation Secretary, one of the cabinet members, Elaine Chao, resigned rather than stay there and sign on to this amendment as we're talking about. So her resignation takes her out of signing on. And Elaine Chao is the wife of the Senate Majority Leader, soon to be Minority Leader, Mitch McConnell. If the Republicans really were looking to get Donald Trump out of office through the 25th Amendment, Elaine Chao wouldn't have resigned. She would have come out and said she signed on to the 25th Amendment. So, again, a few people want to see Donald Trump gone much sooner than possible, but it's really legally problematic unless he resigns.
With only 12 days left of the Trump presidency, a fence is now surrounding Capitol Hill following Wednesday's riot. As dozens of arrests have been made, the U.S. attorney is not ruling out charges against Donald Trump. More from the CNN.
Stunning new details about the deadly coup attempt at the U.S. Capitol as law enforcement officials bring their first charges against several alleged rioters. Federal prosecutors charging 15 criminal cases related to the unrest. The first defendants arrested during the attacks appearing in court Thursday. Law enforcement saying that a man was arrested with a military semi-automatic rifle and 11 Molotov cocktails, calling it a very dangerous situation. D.C.'s acting U.S. attorney saying the FBI also investigating the role of all actors involved, including how the president incited the crowd.
We fight like hell, and if you don't fight like hell, you're not going to have a country anymore.
When asked specifically by a reporter if investigators were looking at Trump's role at the rally, Michael Sherwin saying this.
We're looking at all actors here, and anyone that had a role and the evidence fits the elements of a crime, they're going to be charged.
The rioters appearing to take Trump's cue, storming into the building, leaving behind not only a path of terror and destruction throughout all corners of its halls, but also death. D.C. Capitol Police confirming one officer died Thursday after he was injured responding to the riots. 4 other people, including one woman who was shot inside the Capitol, also died. The FBI asking the public for help to identify more people involved in the assault.
Back here in Jamaica, Attorney-at-Law Isaac Buchanan has responded to statements from Prime Minister Andrew Holness during the National Day of Prayer on Wednesday that those who are calling for an end to the use of states of emergency SOE are hypocritical.
It really doesn't matter what the people think. One must always remember that it is only the Constitution that is the done of all dons. Mm-hmm. So anybody who is mistaken or think that it matters when you are in breach of the Constitution, how people think, whether emotionally or strategically, if you're in breach of the Constitution, that thought should be removed from your mind.
While acknowledging that crime is high, Mr. Buchanan said the SOE was not meant as a crime-fighting tool.
Where you have criminals, you bring them before the court. You must have the evidence. And that is the reality. But in terms of a state of emergency, no one can say that this is a situation where the country is being attacked, where there's so much national unrest that it's of utmost importance to ensure that you lock away persons even if they have not committed a crime.
Mr. Buchanan, who was speaking on the morning agenda on Power 106 FM on Friday, said the use of SOE as a crime-fighting tool was ruled unconstitutional, but was appealed by the government.
Challenging the ruling to say that the findings of fact and law, one, the very thing that I just said, that certainly the government is of the view that a single judge cannot constitute a court to make the findings as the judge did in this case.
The number of Court of Appeal judges have been increased to 13. Chief Justice Brian Sykes says the increase is expected to aid in reducing the backlog of cases in the court system. Justice Sykes says the courts have not seen an increase in judges from 2018. He was speaking at the swearing-in of judges of appeal, puisne judges, and masters in chambers yesterday.
In 1967, there were 9 Supreme Court judges and 22 resident magistrates. Since then, we are now at 40 Supreme Court judges, 58 resident magistrates, or parish court judges as they are now known. We are now up to 5 masters, and the jurisdiction of the court has been expanded by the various legislation that has been passed from time to time. And until 2018, the number of judges in that court was not increased, despite the fact that the law was passed from 2008.
He explained that the physical space necessary to accommodate the full complement of judges was a major challenge. However, that has been addressed based on preliminary reports. The courts are expected to improve significantly.
We are now up to 13, and since that time, Your Excellency, the performance of the court has improved significantly. In 2018, the court delivered 61.85% of judgments within 6 months of being reserved. There was an improvement in 2019 to 65.18%, and in 2020, based upon the preliminary figures, the court is expected to be up to 73 to 85%.
It's time for a break. Stay with us. More stories when we return. Welcome back. Continuing the news. Calls are mounting for the government to review the dates set for students to sit the primary exit profile PEP exams. The latest comes from immediate past president of the Jamaica Teachers Association and principal at Russell Primary Owen Speed. O'Shane Masters has that report.
They aren't ready. That's the belief of parents and teachers for students who are to sit the primary exit profile PEP exams this year. The first component of the exam, the mental ability test, is set for February 23. But Education Minister Favour Williams earlier this week said those worried about the exam should not be, as a mental ability exam will only provide an idea of where the students are. But immediate past president of the Jamaica Teachers Association and principal at Russell Primary School, Owen Speed, believes otherwise.
That statement is a farce, and I'm not going around it. I'm just saying it as straight as I can say it.
Mr. Speed is also raising concern about the safety of the students due to COVID-19. It's the reason he is calling on the government to make the necessary changes to protect the students.
The fact of the matter is that we are in a health crisis, so safety first. The government of Jamaica should now be looking at reducing the number of sittings, because the sittings have to be face-to-face.
The former JTA president believes there won't be any significant negative impact if the exams are pushed back.
If we push back the ability test from February 23 to somewhere in April, late April, and reconfigure the other 2 tests, in fact, subsume the performance task into the curriculum-based test, so that you have fewer days of sitting.
O'Shane Masters, TVJ News.
The UK Department of Health announced today that it has approved the Moderna COVID-19 vaccine for use. The Medicines and Healthcare Products Regulatory Agency said the decision followed months of rigorous clinical trials and extensive analysis of the vaccine's safety, quality, and effectiveness. The UK government has agreed to purchase an additional 10 million doses of the Moderna vaccine on top of its previous order of 7 million, taking its total to 17 million. On Wednesday, the European Commission also authorized the use of the Moderna coronavirus vaccine across the European Union's 27 member nations. A 69-year-old man from St. Elizabeth is the latest to die from COVID-19 in Jamaica. The country's death toll has been increased to 307, and 43 COVID-19 cases were recorded in Jamaica yesterday. The country's COVID-19 case count now stands at 13,411. Their ages range from 9 to 90 years. Manchester recorded most of the new cases. The Ministry of Health says the number of persons hospitalized with a respiratory illness has increased to 92. 6 of them are critically ill. This afternoon, the Lens, one Manchester-based hotel, says it goes to keep its facility COVID-19 free and how it's managed to stay afloat despite the added expenses. Krista Campbell reports.
The Gulf View Hotel in Mandeville, Manchester. A guest has checked out, so the housekeeping staff have come to clean the room. COVID-19 protocols dictate stricter care in doing this. So first, housekeepers must suit up properly before going in.
We put on our masks, our face shields, our disposable aprons, disposable gloves.
A 15 to 20 minute task which now takes half hour or more and even more hands to ensure adequate safety.
Prior to COVID, only we had one housekeeper to a room, but now we have up to 4. So we have one who go in and strip, one who sanitize, one who make the bed, and one who do the bathroom and the mopping of the floor. They wash the duvet separately, the sheets and the pillowcase separately, and we wash the towels separately.
More cleaning agents and more frequent cleaning mean more expenses for the hotel.
Persons have the choice whether or not they want their rooms to be clean, depending on the length of stay. We offer them that option because persons are sometimes comfortable with remaining as is. But for those that we clean, we go in and we sanitize both inside and outside. So all the passageway, all the corridors, all common areas are clean and sanitized on a day-to-day basis.
Managing Director Peter Campbell says while the Gulf View Hotel is nowhere near its pre-COVID bookings, it's making enough to break even. The hosting of entertainment events, especially during the festive season, has helped keep the hotel in the black. However, Mr. Campbell notes that he's had to lay off 70% of his staff since the pandemic. Meanwhile, he stressed the importance of adhering to the COVID-19 protocols, and that means restricted access to areas like the dining room, as one guest found out while our news team was filming.
We're only allowed up to 5 persons in the dining room at any given time. However, if you'd like the food to be delivered to your room, we can do that also. Okay, so it's dinner for 2 from 2 to 3.
Krista Campbell, TVJ News.
Is the ban on single-use plastics and styrofoam working? Well, from all indications, it seems the alternatives are worse than the problem they were brought in to solve. Speaking on TVJ's All Angles on Wednesday, Environment Minister Pernell Charles Jr. said the government will be getting more aggressive this year in enforcing the ban. Kelisha Williams has that story.
January 1, 2019, the government banned single-use plastic bags and straws. January 1, 2020, a ban on styrofoam food containers. An aim by the government to protect the environment from plastic waste, which had become an eyesore in the island. But instead of finding environmentally friendly alternatives, some Jamaicans have swapped one evil for the other, plastic boxes. And others are still using scandal bags.
what I've seen is just simply transferring from one non-recyclable package, the old styrofoam, to these new plastic containers that also cannot be recycled. So that really concerns me, because I don't think on the styrofoam side we have really made much progress.
Speaking on TVJ's All Angles on Wednesday, President of the Small Business Association, Michael Leckie, said some of the paper food containers are useless. So some business owners are left with no choice.
The lunch that is placed in it, it's pretty hot and it falls apart.
But what about the paper containers that have been used by big establishments for years?
Although it's alternative, it's most costly. And what happened, a case like, say, what you would call like the compartmental type of packaging, that would cost about $800 before. Styrofoam now is twice as much.
I have gone personally through the length and breadth of Jamaica, and when we get food, we get these containers. Even as early as January 2019, in Western Jamaica, these containers were available. We did concede from the start that these would be more pricey, but there is a cost to having a better environment.
So what is being done to address this? Environment Minister Pernell Charles Jr., who was also speaking on TVJ's All Angles, said the government has noticed that plastic lunch boxes are being widely used. However,
you will see a much more aggressive stance this year in terms of getting out and involved in the schools and the community so that everyone can play their part. But it has to be understood that the government has not sat back for 2 years. That period there has been a transition and a monitoring, and that is also a period where we've given a lot of operators and manufacturers an opportunity to adjust their own operation.
Kelisha Williams, TVJ News.
In the meantime, the government is committing to rolling out the plastic bottle refund scheme this year. Under the scheme, Jamaicans who return plastic bottles will get a cash refund. The aim is for the scheme to work in tandem with the plastic ban to reduce waste in the island.
So the deposit refund scheme, you should see it very soon, and not just with one company.
Very soon, meaning this calendar year?
Yes, it must be done, because, as I said to you, that's the greater issue.
Repairs have been completed on the Retreat Bridge in St. Mary. Remedial work was done to the bridge after a woman fell through a hole in its wooden structure in early December last year while attempting to cross it. The bridge facilitates both pedestrians and motorists.
And I got in touch with the staff of the National Works Agency and said this must be dealt with immediately. It's an emergency. And in a way we have to get the funds, it has to be found to repair this stuff. And 2 weeks after, I got a photograph, another set of photographs from the Member of Parliament, the Minister, to show me that the repairs were done. And I came out today for the guys in the area, and I said to him, I have to come and look at it.
Minister without responsibility in the Ministry of Works, Everett Warmington, says he has been in dialogue with the National Works Agency to replace the bridge with a permanent structure. He was speaking while touring the area recently with Member of Parliament for Western St. Mary, Robert Montague.
We are working towards replacing it. There's a two-lane Bailey Bridge is what has been provided, and the design and everything, and we are waiting to get it inside a year. I just spoke to the minister. We'll try and see if we can get one of the conventional bridges, if needs be. If the funds are coming, then we do that for you, which will be a much more permanent situation.
To news and sports now, TVJ Sports has been reliably informed that Woolmer's Boys School and veteran track and field coach Danny Hawthorne have parted company. Here's Spencer Darlington.
After 4 years in charge of the Woolmer's Boys Track and Field program, Danny Hawthorne and the Heroes Circle-based school have apparently severed ties. When contacted by TVJ Sports on Thursday, Hawthorne refused to go into details, only saying that the Wolmer's boys principal, Dwight Pennycook, probably wants to take the program in a different direction and maybe he wasn't part of the principal's plans. We also contacted Principal Pennycook, who said he was in a meeting and could not speak on the matter at that moment, adding that he would be in a better position to speak on Friday. In the meantime, our sources have informed us that the MVP Track Club will take over the track and field program at Wolmer's boys. We reached out to the club president, Bruce James, who confirmed the latest development.
The headmaster of Wolmer's, Mr. Pennycook, has invited the MVP Track and Field Club to play a positive role with the redevelopment of the Wolmer's Boys School track team. This takes effect on the 1st of January 2021. And the Wolmer's Boys School happens to be where the MVP Track and Field Club was founded. And the MVP Track and Field Club management consists of Wolmer's old boys such as Stephen Francis, Paul Francis, Andre Edwards, Adrian Laidlaw, Bruce James. So, yeah, we're happy to help the Wolmer's Boys School track and field team and the program rebuilding.
James added that the coaching staff for the 12-time Boys Championship winners is being assembled at the moment.
A number of coaches are being contacted now, and we're going to be building up the team. We plan on using some coaches from MVP as well to assist with the program.
James was also asked about Hawthorne's present standing with the team. What's the status of Mr. Danny Hawthorne then?
I'm unaware. When the headmaster invited the MVP Track and Field Club to play this role, he advised us that there was no coaches at Wolmer's for the track team.
It's understood that there has been very little or no communication between Hawthorne and the school's administration since March of last year, when schools went into lockdown to guard against the spread of the COVID-19 virus. It's further understood that Hawthorne subsequently wrote to the principal, Dwight Pennycook, seeking clarification on certain aspects of the school's track and field program, but got no response. Hawthorne started at Wolmer's Boys in 2016 when he replaced Christopher Harley as head coach for the track and field team. Prior to that, he spent almost 18 years at St. Jago High, where he guided the likes of Johan Blake, Nickel Ashmead and Riker Hilton. Wolmer's last won the boys' championship title at the 100th staging of the event in 2010. Spencer Darlington, TVJ Sports.
And that's the Midday News. I'm Anthony Lugg. Join us at 7 for Primetime News. On behalf of the news, sports and production teams, good afternoon.